You were raised as a kid. We were all raised as kids. And we were all raised in different ways. But for the most part, we were all raised in such a means as to evolve and mature. Or maybe we were all raised to be 40 years old. Now, what does that mean? Well, as a kid, you were raised probably to have manners, not be disrespectful, be more mature, sit down, quit talking, get potty trained so you're not peeing your pants in school. You were raised to be physically competent. Once you were physically competent, using the bathroom, sitting still, not spilling your food all over the place, it was time for you to go to school. And in school, you were taught to, sit down, pay attention, retain this knowledge and information, because life is all about retaining knowledge and information and applying the principles that you learn. You went through school. You passed each grade from grade to grade, learning higher levels of information about the fundamentals of reality. You learned how to deal with people who were difficult to deal with, because in life you're going to be dealing with a lot of people who are difficult to deal with. Then you graduate school, and maybe after that you go on to higher level education or some kind of certification program or straight into some kind of professional experience. And in that time, you realize higher levels. You learn more advanced processes to the fundamentals of reality. You learn how to retain more complex information, do more complex processes, deal with difficult people, because in life, you're going to have to deal with some difficult people. And you realize, I graduated school so I could be part of this education on how to become more professional. And once you take that next step, maybe you graduate college or you graduate trade school, you realize I'm now in a professional environment. I'm a young adult that needs to learn how to become a professional. I was raised as a kid so I could learn how to be mature in school. I was raised in school so I could learn how to be mature in the position that I'm in. And now that I'm in this professional career, I need to advance. That's how I fulfill myself. I need to become better than I was in this current role. I can't just be doing this role for the rest of my life, because I'm already gaining so much familiarity within it that I can't just do the same thing day after day. I need to become a supervisor. I need to become a manager. And so you climb this ladder of the corporate world, and you advance yourself to become what you were raised to do, what you were destined to do. And then there comes a point when you realize, I've made it. I'm at the highest level that I've ever come before in my career, in my accomplishments, and in my life. And you think, can I advance past this? You're 40 years old. You have the energy and the skill set and the experience of someone to do what you can do. And you think, can I go past this? Would anyone else get hired for the kind of position that I'm in? No way, because people in their 50s are seen as too old. People in their 30s are too young and inexperienced to do what I do. I have the perfect amount of gray hair on my head that presents my wisdom, yet shows my youthfulness. And you realize, wait, if I'm at my peak for how society views an individual in our modern society, is this what I was raised to do? When I was raised as a child, were my guardians thinking of a 40-year-old? When I went through school, was I learning how to become a 40-year-old? You aren't raised with your guardians thinking, I'm raising someone to be a stay-at-home 90-year-old in the future. No, they think I am raising someone to create accomplishments and experiences to contribute to our civilization. And so there you are at 40 with your right amount of gray hair, thinking to yourself, I've made it, but have I really made it? Is this what it was all about? How much time do I have left? And you realize the average lifespan is about 80 years old, and you think to yourself, I'm halfway there. I'm at the peak of the standard distribution curve. I've reached my potential for where the peak is at. And you think to yourself over and over again, this existential crisis of, is this what it was really all about? And there's points we're gonna realize this. Maybe in the first quadrant of life, maybe in the third quadrant of life, where we have this experience of thinking, was it all about the middle? And so the motivational will tell you, hey, that should inspire you to grasp every moment with everything you can and make the most of this experience with what you got. And we ask, why? So I can set up a good life for myself when I'm 40? And don't take the number 40 too literally with any of this, because some in their 50s will say, hey, 50 is the new 40. And if that makes you feel better about this existential crisis, all power to you. But the fact remains, was the middle what it was all about? I used to think age 27 was the peak of being a human being. Because at 27, you're in the best physical shape that you can possibly be in. It wasn't until I entered the so-called real world I started thinking about aspects beyond the physical. I started thinking about aspects of the cultural, of the societal. And so it is the bias of my own young, ignorant age to have these ideas about the age of 40. Now, the male brain doesn't fully develop. The prefrontal cortex in the male mind doesn't fully develop until the age of 25. So as I age year over year, I can feel my neural networks within myself advancing and becoming stronger. Because age 25 can also seem like a peak in many ways. At this point of time, I am not making the most rational decisions I can possibly make because my prefrontal cortex is not as developed as it can fully be. So I view the age of 25 as a transcendent peak to this experience. But as I get closer to this age, I think to myself, was this what it was all about? Should I really be putting this age on a pedestal? Because how different is this world around me closer to this age than it was years ago? Of course, the way I see the world is quite different, but how different is nature in its entirety? So in my 20s, I may look back to my teens and think, ugh, I was an idiot back then. But how much different is that from someone in their 60s looking back into their 50s and thinking, ugh, I was an idiot back then? So maybe society might see your peak in a certain decade, but as you live decade after decade, you see your peak is following you. Because the truth of the matter is this: regardless of what others may see your peak, if you're living your life in a fulfilling manner, you never see your peak. Because winners don't peak. Winners constantly live in their peak. So even if you're 120 years old, in a coma, hooked up to an IV tube, you still might think to yourself, huh, I was an idiot 20 years ago when I was 100. Right now is really my time to shine. That perspective is completely feasible. So the existential perspective and Godsmack of, is this what it was all about, may seem scary and unnerving, but no matter what age we are, when we ask the question, is this what it was all about? The answer should be yes. To be who I've become and to have these experiences that I've had, Yes, this is what this experience was all about. To be who I am today.